Hello. Hello, hello, hello. Okay. Well, welcome, my beautiful, lovely, amazing viewers. Welcome to another beautiful video hosted by yours truly, me. I think I got a mic because I got roasted by certain someone for not having a mic, so I got a mic. Anyways, today's video we're gonna talk about, what do you think? French art. Well, not really French art. We're just talking about Versailles, actually. So today we're going to be learning about France. More specifically, we're going to be learning about the King of France who moved the palace, basically, from the Louvre to Versailles. So I wanted to start off with saying that in the beginning of the 17th century, the French monarchy, they lived actually in what we always called, but what's now is the Louvre, the museum, the beautiful museum in Paris. I actually have a book on it right here with me, which I'm actually gonna grab. Okay. So, sorry y'all. The Louvre, right here. Okay, so minus the triangle, that's what, the French monarchy was living out of, right? So it was King Louis the 14th. And so at this time, he was kind of young, and before Versailles was built, so then in the early 17th century, there was a whole bunch of other noble families and aristocrats who literally wanted him to perish. They were like, no, you're a kid, you can't rule the country, I don't know what you think you're doing. And so, yeah. So that kind of happened. And then he was kind of bummed out about that. And he was like, yeah, okay. But then the nobles and stuff, they kind of came for him. They were like, you're a kid, you should be running the country. Tried to kidnap him, coerce him into doing various things. Very no bueno. And so then after that, he was kind of scared about everyone coming and attacking him. So then he was like, okay, we're gonna move the palace. We're just gonna move it because this ain't it, sis. And so they were thinking of where to move it, and all of a sudden there was a nobleman. Well, he was always there, but he built a chateau. So his name was Nicolas Fouquet, and he built a huge, massive chateau in France. And he was like, yo, king, come check me out. Come look at my crib. And the king's like, all right, dog. So he rolled up, and this castle was unlike any other castle. It was absolutely huge. Okay, and the castle was kind of basically like a smaller version of Versailles, because Louis got the idea of Versailles from Fouquet. So Fouquet built Versailles. No, Fouquet's chateau was called Vaux-le-Vicomte, and it was in Maincy, France. It was built by good old man. And so it's very interesting. It's very large. It's very flat. You'll see that a lot of chateaux in France are flat. I'll get into that later. So it was flat. It was beautiful. It was really just over the top. And so the king rolled up, and he was like, whoa, this is a lot. This is quite, this is fancy. And Fouquet was like, ho ho ho, mais oui, this is how you say my chateau, huh? So yeah, so it was absolutely stunning, absolutely beautiful. And then he served the dinner to the king, of course, came over for dinner and stuff. And he served the King of France on gold plates. And the king was like, absolutely not. I'm the king. I should have these gold plates, not you. You're just a nobleman. What are you doing with gold plates? So he was super upset about that. And he was like, that's tea. And then everyone realized that Fouquet was high-key richer than the king and cooler than the king. And the king was like, no. And threw him in prison. And they took his money. And then during the French Revolution, everyone ransacked that palace and took everything. So if you go there, nothing's original. Whatever. So yeah, so Fouquet got rocked, and then Louis was like, okay, so like this guy who built his palace, he's onto something, eh? So he was like, yo, Lebrun, viens ici, hein? And so he came over, and he was like, I want you to build me a chateau similar to this one, but bigger, better. Because, you know,
bigger is better, and better is bigger. A little bit is never enough. No, no, no. Oh, no.
Basically, that's what he said. And Troy just copied him, obviously. So yeah, so that's what happened. And so Lebrun built Versailles. Took a long time, obviously. And so they built Versailles. And so then Louis moved the whole entire monarchy, the whole entire administration team. They moved everybody. They moved all the families. They were like, okay, we're gone. And so they moved them all over to Versailles. And now one important thing to know is that the whole reason they moved to Versailles, right, was because there was a lot of conspiring going on behind his back, and like just a lot of, you know, he thought everyone was kind of misbehaving and trying to overthrow him and talking smack, which obviously they were, you know. I mean, like, are we ever content with who's in charge? No, we're always trying to rebel. And obviously everyone was doing that. And so he built Versailles flat so that you could keep an eye on people, so that if you could see people in the gardens, so you could see people were conspiring against you or plotting, whatever. So you could always see. And then Versailles also had no doors. It pretty much was like hallway, and then room, like everything connected pretty much. So you could flow from one room to another, and there was really no secrecy. There was no privacy. And that's what he wanted. He didn't want people to have private areas, to talk about private things, because he didn't want anyone to, you know, replace him. He was like, I am the king, huh? You cannot replace me. Yeah, lots of tea. And so then everyone was like, wait a damn minute. What are we going to do with the Louvre Chateau? Like, we got to do something with that. And he's like, I don't know, put it as an administration office or something, a museum. I don't care. You know, I live in Versailles, okay? I don't care. So then they were like, okay. So they used it as like an administration office, and they got a whole bunch of painters to come in and paint the roofs and paint the walls, and it was this beautiful whole ordeal. And then, you know what? I'm gonna talk about the Louvre another day. Today we're just talking about moving from the Louvre to Versailles. So they moved from the Louvre to Versailles, and it's very interesting. What else can we talk about? Well, you see, I just didn't want to dive into all the things about Versailles because, like, there's a lot to talk about. But maybe I will dive into a little bit. So that's basically why Versailles kind of exists, is because he wanted some privacy. But yeah, it's very flat. It's very long. It has everything you could need. It has shops. They have like a church to go pray and stuff, because obviously everyone was a little religious. It's the 17th century Europe. Duh. Yeah, gardens are very flat. The only thing that's tall would be like the structure itself is quite tall, and the trees. They still had some trees. There is one thing I want to talk about, the orangery. But the orangery was really cute. It was kind of like, okay, so everyone knows that colonization was a thing, and France definitely colonized places. And so in the orangery, Louis it's in Versailles, he kind of had this garden, and it had like plants and animals and stuff that were from all the colonies, and he wanted to showcase his power. Like, oh yeah, France is so cool, like we colonized all these places, and we have all these lit plants and animals, and you could never. And that's definitely problematic. But he did it anyways. And that's kind of like the thing about Versailles, was like, in the 17th century, you were rich if everyone thought you were rich. You know, like if you had the money, if you had a beautiful palace, if you were flexing on every single person, everyone thought you were rich. And I was like, the same with Louis. He was like, I need people to realize that I'm the king here, that I'm in charge, I'm the wealthiest. I'm going to build the biggest, best palace ever, and no one's going to come after me because how could they? I literally have Versailles. So everything is super over the top and totally unnecessary. It's a lot to take in. Yeah, what else? I have some notes here. Yeah, also one important thing to mention is that the idea of manners weren't really established until kind of the 17th century. Because, like, before, like, you know, it didn't really matter if you wash your hands or not. But then, kind of in the 17th century, what was it? Manners, like, acting proper was just a way of showing how high class you were. And it was very, like, a tight-knit group of people who knew about these manners, you know? So, like, the nobles would create manners, and so then only nobles would practice these manners. And so if you claimed to be a noble and you didn't practice, then everybody knew you weren't a noble. And soon enough, like, they got out, and so then they had to create new manners that you had to do to show that you were noble. That's kind of how manners started. And so it was kind of like all about elitism, no privacy. It's very interesting. Versailles is really over the top. It's a lot. Is all that necessary? No. And that's fine. Yeah, there's a really cool fountain that we're going to touch on. It's called the Fountain of Apollo. We're going to touch on next video, I think. Because it's too much to talk about right now. There's, like, a lot that goes on. Yeah, so Versailles. Obviously, there's more to it, but, like, you just need the rundown, you know what I mean? It's kind of just, like, that's the tea. What else? Yeah, a lot of what's in there is not original because, like I said, same with, like, the Vaux le Vicomte or whatever. A lot of it was ransacked during the Revolution, so it was, you know, people, like, took stuff. So what's in there now is not original. It's just kind of artifacts that were from similar time frame that work. So that's Versailles pretty much. I'll upload some photos here and there when I talk about things because it's actually interesting. The gardens are really pretty, but they're very flat, you know, as I said, just because they don't want privacy. And it's very, that was the thing with, like, French gardens. It's all very controlled, like, you know? Like, it's very, like, flower, 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 space, flower, flower, flower. So there's nothing that's, like, free-flowing or fun, or it's very controlled, very rigid, like that. So I'm just looking at my notes right now, seeing if there's anything else I want to talk about. And I don't really think there is, because that's it. But, yeah. So in the next video, we're going to talk about... No, Versailles. We're going to talk about Hall of Mirrors, and we're going to talk about the fountain. And then later we'll talk about the Louvre, and then we'll talk about some Italian art and stuff. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video where we kind of talked about why Versailles kind of exists and why the royal family moved the whole establishment from the Louvre to Versailles, leaving Paris, just going outside of Paris. It was just for control. It was for they could keep up with what's going on. They could make sure nobody was doing any chaotic stuff. It's really all about control, okay? So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please tune into my next video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share, put your notifications on. I'm trying to post once a week. It's like raining every day where I am, which is not normal, so I have a lot of time to do whatever I want to do. I also got a mic because I got harassed for that, for not having a mic. I'm not gonna do another mukbang ever again because I got roasted for eating and talking. It's just like fair. But I think that just talking is kind of my thing because I like to just talk. I had a headache today, so that's why I wasn't really as excited as usual. But I just wanted to film this video because I like talking. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys another day. Goodbye. Salut. Arrivederci.